Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip, 9 out of 10 Americans are planning to travel this summer despite inflation pushing prices higher on just about everything. People are still planning to travel, but higher prices are causing a lot of us to modify our plans. What does that have to do with retirement planning? Well, you'd be surprised that there are actually quite a few analogies that we can make here, and a lot of similarities between planning for your summer travel and planning for your retirement. Give me a great conversation today, Philip. Looking forward to getting into this. But tell me, I know you have some summer travel that you're planning on. Has the inflation, did that play a role in how you and your wife were putting together your plans for this summer?
They did not, because we actually made these plans last fall.
So you were locked in.
So we were locked in, right. And thankfully we're not going too far away. Right?
Yeah,
we're just going to go to the beach. So, $4.50 gas isn't. I mean, it's a stretch, but I think we'll be okay going 150 miles to the beach. So, but I can see where it's going to put some strain on families. Mm-hmm. That are trying to get some vacation time in, because, Jen, the last couple of years, there's a lot of pent up demand for travel.
Yes.
There just is. And so, we're looking forward to it. And I know a lot of folks are looking forward to finally being able to get out and get away. And, talking about the travel, and I just thought it was interesting, where people think they're going to go. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not ready to go to Europe yet, just not quite. It's on my bucket list to do, but I'm just not ready to go
right now.
Yet.
Right.
No,
and there you are starting to see a little bit more of that. There are, I saw some numbers saying travel to Europe from the U.S. might jump as much as 600% this year over last year, because a lot of people are itching to get out. And but to your point, domestic travel is also going to be really strong this year. Destinations near water, you and your family, you're headed to the beach, or by national parks. That's what a lot of people are looking to do. 3 out of 4 travelers are in your camp, Philip. They're planning to stick to domestic travel this year. A lot of people taking, maybe traveling a shorter distance, finding cheaper activities. So it's an interesting dynamic where things cost more and people are trying to deal with that, but they're also so sick of not being able to travel due to the pandemic.
They're tired. I mean, I'll tell you, recently, right, I was on a plane twice. And I had to go to Ed Slott's meeting up in your neck of the woods in Kansas City. Uh-huh. Airplanes are packed slam full. Yeah. And so airports are full. It's just, people are traveling like crazy right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have been so sick of not being able to travel. But again, it's so expensive. It's a really tough thing. So there's a couple things I want to talk about here. Let's start with the inflation piece of this, because like I said, there are people who are itching to travel, but because, just prices of everything being so sky high, they're modifying their plans. They're maybe doing more of the staycation, shorter distance type of thing, maybe just a long weekend instead of a really extended stay. So let's talk about inflation here as we think to the future with retirement. How do we keep that from derailing our plans, not just this summer, but in retirement in the future?
Yeah, that thing called a permanent vacation, right? Retirement.
Exactly.
And that's a good point, right? So we are seeing inflation derail some vacation plans, right? That people just can't afford to go with this huge increase, or they're having to shorten up their trips. But think about retirement in terms of being the ultimate time in vacation mode. You're not earning any money. So I would say that, to me, that's where having that written retirement income plan in place, and not just a simple one. I mean, actually accounting for some increases in inflation. Now, granted, if you'd gone back 5 years, 10 years ago, most people would not have envisioned, right, that we would have seen this 8% increase in inflation. But I get that. But if they had built in a couple steps of 3 to 4% inflation, and we really didn't have any, then ultimately they'd still end up about the same place in year 10, being accounting for about 8 to 10% inflation. Jen, it boils down to that. Having that written retirement income plan that is going to take into consideration that inflation could be here. And if we don't, then you're just ahead of the game, right? But I think we have to plan for that for sure.
Right. Absolutely. And when you think about, Philip, all the planning that goes into preparing for a trip, I know you mentioned that you guys had locked in your summer plans months and months ago. You can find all sorts of articles on travel planning, how to save for that, things like get started early, lock in those plans early, find ways to earn a little extra money, boost your savings if you need some help, and get serious about budgeting all of your expenses so you can really make sure you have a good handle on what's going on with that. Tell me how we could apply some of those tips to retirement planning. I feel like, there are some lessons there that we can take for retirement planning when we're thinking about vacation planning.
Absolutely, Jen. I mean, we can take all of those, right, and put those into play when we're talking about retirement planning. I mean, get started early. Don't wait until you're 6 months out from pulling the plug and retiring. Let's start, 3, 5, 8 years before we're going to retire to make sure that we're on track, that we're where we need to be to do the things we want to do. And you can put together an income plan as early as, that 8 to 5 years before you get ready to retire. And so that you kind of have a track to run on as you prepare for that retirement. So that's one, get started early. It's never too early to start. To find extra ways to earn money. So I would put that in this text because I see it all the time, right? I see guys that are retiring, but they still go ranger at the golf course, or they work a little bit at Home Depot, to make their golf money, or, to keep the gas in the boat, those type of things, just to add a little extra. And I think it's more about not earning extra. It's more about staying busy, right? So that they're not spending money on the other side of things. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the third point you made was, budgeting. And I think that is ultimately, where we need to be when we're getting ready to retire. We need to look at our expenses and find out, where do we need to be? What is our budget need to be? And let's put together a realistic budget to make sure that we're on the right track for retirement. And all of that goes to this point, Jen. It's important to have that written retirement income plan. And if you don't have one, that's something that we can help you with through our core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. Hey, schedule a 30-minute phone call with us. We'll walk through your current circumstances, give you some pointers, and see if we may be able to help you in any way. Again, it's that simple, that easy. Give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your 30-minute phone consultation.
Here's something else, Philip, as we're talking a little bit about comparing travel planning and vacation planning to retirement planning. There are some new travel trends emerging as a result of the pandemic. More people are using travel agents now. That used to be an outdated thing, but because of the world we're living in now, all these concerns about flight cancellations or borders being closed or COVID vaccine restrictions changing, hotel policies changing, more people are getting help because all of a sudden it has gotten so much more complicated to travel now. What can we learn from this world, in the world of retirement planning, that idea of getting a professional to help you keep track of things that are getting more complicated?
So I think that makes a good analogy, right, for retirement planning, because, so many people do it themselves. And Jen, it's easy to do it yourself when the markets keep going up, and away. But, if you look back since January 1st, especially, that's not been the case for us. We've seen a lot of volatility in the markets, and we've seen a lot of downturn. As a matter of fact, at this point, the NASDAQ's actually in good, solid bear territory. And the other indexes are in correction territory and strong correction territory. So what I'm seeing is that people now are a little bit more concerned. They've been doing it themselves. And now they think that, well, maybe I need some help, and maybe I need somebody that can help me walk through that process. And that's what professionals are for, making sure that they understand that process. And you need to deal with a professional that knows retirement planning, not while you're accumulating, right? There's a difference. And so I think that, you go to a travel agent for travel. You need to go to somebody that specializes in retirement planning to make sure that you're on the right track to retire.
So for people who have never worked with a professional on their financial plan, talk a little bit about that idea of getting a second opinion, having somebody take a look at this, review what you've done, so that way what you've done is in line with your goals and your dreams for your retirement future.
Well, a lot of folks out there, they may be working with a financial professional. The question they really have to ask themselves is that person a fiduciary that has to look out for you and your best interest? And it's easy for people to say they are, but ask them for their ADV, because that'll tell you if they are or not. And that'll point you in the right direction. I think that especially if you're getting a second opinion, you want a second opinion from somebody that has, financial responsibility or to you, to look out for your best interest, not some company, not some guys on Wall Street, but you specifically. And so I think that's one of the things you need to look at. And then again, somebody that really does specialize in income planning. I think there are two things that you need to look at.
There's a line that bears repeating real quickly also as we are putting together our summer travel plans again. Most of the time, people spend more time doing things like that, Philip, planning their vacations than their retirement. And I think that's something we want to talk about here before we run out of time in this first part of the show. Why do you think so many people are guilty of this? And how do we buckle down and get serious about planning that big, permanent 30-year vacation?
Well, I think you just said it. It's permanent, and they don't look at it from that standpoint. They don't look at it as, hey, I'm going to go enjoy this 2 weeks, or I'm going to go away for this month, and I want to get the most out of it. So I'm going to plan everything I want to do. And I guess, and I think probably because we look at retirement as not a vacation, but a change in lifestyle, right? We're changing. We're making this line in the sand, and we're changing what we're doing and how we're living. And so it's a different mindset. And I think if we looked at it more as a vacation and at least in 10-year, I call it 10-year increments, right? The first 10 years when you're hopefully healthier and want to expand and have fun and check off the bucket list. The second 10 years is more about spending time with family and still getting that bucket list in. But by then you've done a lot of travel, so you slow down a little bit. And that third decade is more about health and health issues and those type of things. So I think if you just take it into those three stages and plan out, it doesn't have to be perfect, but any plan is better than no plan at all. Hey, give us a call at 863-285-3815 and see if we can help you plan your retirement. It's a 30-minute phone conversation. It's easy, non-threatening. Again, give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis phone call. 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
This is your captain speaking. We're expecting fair skies, a smooth flight, and about a 85% chance or so of making it to our destination. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the flight.
Would you stay on that plane? Of course not. Well, do you have a retirement plan where you probably won't run out of money? You need a plan that no matter the destination will help you get to and through retirement successfully. Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services can design a plan to help you get to your destination as comfortably as possible, even if Wall Street or the economy causes some turbulence. Call Philip Statler and the Statler Financial Services team to start working on your plan. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Get a plan designed to allow you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the retirement you've worked so hard for. 863-285-3815. Firm offers insurance services, advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip, millions of Americans' money is in something like a traditional IRA. In fact, the total value of all of those accounts in 2020 was more than $19 trillion nationally. A lot of money in these types of accounts, right?
There is a lot of money there, a lot of money. So, it's easier that way, right? Because a lot of people have 401ks, and so they're able to build up that savings. And if it's not a 401k, it's a 403b or some deferred comp. There's a lot of different retirement accounts out there that they've been able to put money into. Now, so you've already made the right decision, folks. You've made the right decision. You're putting money away and to save for your retirement, and that's the right choice. Mm-hmm. But I want to help you learn about all the other decisions you need to make when it comes to taking money out of your retirement accounts.
Right.
You've done a good job of putting money in. The secret is, how do you get it out most effectively and pay the least amount of taxes on it? And that's the trick, Jen.
Yeah, that is a really good point there. And as we get into some of these options for your accounts, that's what you have to understand. The type of the 401k or IRA, the type of account you have, Philip, that really matters when it comes to how your retirement income will be taxed. This is not something that we can afford to overlook, right?
Absolutely not. You need to understand how those plans work in terms of pre-tax and after-tax money. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks, they're putting money in a 401k and they don't know, is it going into a pre-tax or an after-tax, right? The pre-tax is like a traditional IRA. You never pay tax on that money. So when you pull money out of it, you're going to have to pay some tax. If you've already paid tax on the money, after-tax money, there's a lot of 401ks that have Roth provisions in them, like a Roth IRA. And so, hey, if you've got a Roth provision and you're in a lower tax bracket, that may be what you need to be doing. So pre-tax accounts are pretty much your 401ks, though some of them now actually do have some Roth provisions within them that you can make that election to use. Traditional IRAs, 403bs, which in my lifetime, I've only seen one Roth 403b. You don't see those very often, and it's got to be a real specialized deal. Mm-hmm. And then 457s, which are deferred comp plans, are all tax deferred pre-tax accounts. Post-tax are going to be your Roth IRAs, and that's pretty easy, and your Roth provisions within your 401ks.
So with your 401k or your IRA, you need to know the rules for taking money out of those accounts. Not only do we need to understand how they will be taxed, but Philip, what do we need to know about what we call required minimum distributions? That's when we have to start taking money out. What's a real high-level thing we need to know about?
So let's talk about required minimum distributions, Jen. Yep. So first, let's talk about the acronym, right? Because that's what people need to understand is when somebody says your RMD, that is the acronym for your required minimum distribution. That's what you'll see that more often than not. Hey, have you taken your RMD? And people will look at me like I've got three eyeballs.
What the heck is that?
What is that? But it's easy, right? Your required minimum distribution is your RMD. So a couple things to realize is that there's been some changes with the Secure Act that was passed back in the end of 2019. And one of the changes was that now the required minimum distribution, that RMD, now you get to take it at 72 instead of 70 and a half. So that's a big deal, right? So it pushes it out a year and a half further down the road than what you had to before. And so you need to know that. The other thing you need to know is that RMDs do not apply to Roth IRAs. So if you have a Roth IRA, guess what? You don't have to take any money out of it if you don't want to.
Okay.
Government doesn't care. You've already paid tax on that money, right? So they don't care. You also, your 401ks are subject to RMDs. Mm-hmm. The only exemption there is if you are over 72, still working for your current employer whose 401k that you're contributing to.
Okay.
You don't have to take any money out of it as long as you're working.
Okay.
But if you stop working in June, guess what? You have to take an RMD out of that account if you're over 72.
Okay. So if you are still, because you would still be in that phase of contributing to it if you're still working. So that's why they can't force you to start taking money out. Okay.
Yep.
But again,
so that's the case.
But again, this is where things start to get a little bit complicated, and really important for us to have somebody who can help us make sure that we understand the rules. So Philip, just talk real quickly about what your process looks like for helping us analyze what's going on with our money and what are some options that we need to consider. Tell me what your process is like.
So when we look at it, the first thing we want to do is have a 30-minute phone call with somebody, right? We want to understand what their big concerns are, where they are, and we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place that's going to help them. If not, then I want to point them in the right direction to make sure they get the help they need, and they're going to be going down the right path. If I can't help them, I want to make sure I give them enough and point them in the right direction where they can get the help they need. That's number one. Number two is we want to walk through and put together ultimately an income plan for them. We want to start out by making sure that they don't have too much risk in their portfolio. We want to make sure that we have a plan in place for taking money out of their retirement accounts in the most effective and tax efficient way as possible. That's why we developed our core retirement design. And you can give us a call to schedule that 30-minute phone consultation. It's that easy, Jen. Just give us a call at 863-285-3815 and tell the receptionist, hey, I want to schedule a 30-minute consultation with Philip. It's that simple. We'll reach out, we'll give you a call, and we'll have a conversation about where you are and where you're trying to get to.
That number again, 863-285-3815 for that quick conversation. There's a lot you can uncover there. Talking today about 401k and IRA decisions. There's a couple more things I want to make sure that we get to, Philip, before our next break. When we're talking about taking money out of our accounts, there are taxes that can apply when we are withdrawing income, which we've spent some time talking about here. Also, there are penalties that can apply if we don't follow the rules. And this is a really big deal. What do we need to know as a retiree about the penalties with those required minimum distributions if you don't do this the right way?
Absolutely, Jen. That is so true. They are substantial penalties. And I'm going to talk about, before I did the RMD one, I want to talk about the early retiree one.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So look, if you're not 59 and a half, because there's folks that retire at 55, right?
Sure.
And 57. Well, if you're not 59 and a half, then you can't start taking money out of your IRA without paying a 10% penalty for early withdrawal. There are some caveats for 401ks. If you play by some specific rules, you might have access to that money, but your IRAs you don't have access to until you hit that 59 and a half. So that's a 10% penalty if you take money out of your IRA prior to that.
Wow.
Now, the RMD, let's say that you're 72 and you forgot to take your RMD. Well, that can be a problem because if you don't take your required minimum distribution, there is a 50% penalty that the IRS assesses for that missed RMD. So let's say you're supposed to make $1,000 RMD, required minimum distribution, that year, and you didn't do it. The IRS can come back and charge you $500 penalty for not taking it out, and you still have to take it out the next year and pay tax on it.
Holy moly.
So it's kind of a double whammy there, Jen.
Yeah. And as it turns out, Philip, even death is an excuse to skip this,
not
right?
excuse. Hey, even the year you die, somebody's got to take that RMD out.
Yeah, so if you inherit that, so this is, obviously, if you're the one who dies, it doesn't matter to you, but if you inherit that IRA from a non-spouse, from a parent, then it's on you to make sure that's been taken by December 31st of the year that the death occurs. So it's not like, mom died and now we don't have to worry about this anymore. No, somebody still has to do that.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And get this, we talk about the Secure Act, and they're actually, earlier in the year, we spent some time with Ed Slott, and he went through, there's new proposed regs out there when it comes to beneficiary IRAs that you inherit from non-spouses. And those rules have changed substantially. So if you're not, working with somebody that understands those and is on top of all those new IRA rules, that can be a problem, especially if you just inherited somebody's IRA.
Right.
I got to tell you, it's a big change that just came through the pipeline that people need to be aware of.
And this is why it's so important to talk about having some of these difficult conversations ahead of time, because, Philip, if you are the person who inherits an IRA because you're the beneficiary from somebody who passed away, you're going to be dealing with the emotions of that loss and that death. And I feel pretty confident in saying I can guarantee the last thing you want to be thinking about is messing with RMDs and thinking about getting this right, because you're dealing with your own grief. And this is why we talk about getting this done ahead of time. If you're the person who owns this and you're leaving it to somebody, do the planning that you need to do so that way they're not scrambling to react to this. You want to make sure things are set up. Because again, Philip, when we talk about these RMDs, Forbes says required minimum distributions, they can trigger the highest penalty in the tax code if you don't follow the rules. You do not want these steep penalties and potentially higher taxes swiping away at your retirement savings, leaving you with just a fraction of the money that you were counting on for your retirement.
You're absolutely right. If you make a little mistake with your required minimum distribution from your IRA or your other retirement accounts, the penalty for not taking that full amount of your RMD is 50% of the amount that you should have taken, in addition to the income taxes on that distribution. Now, listen, I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. They could trigger higher taxes on your Social Security benefits. And get this, they can cause higher Medicare premium surtax down the road. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up those steep penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes. So listen, for folks today, if you saved at least $150,000 for retirement, give us a call at 863-285-3815 and let's schedule a 30-minute call to make sure that you're doing things the right way and on the right track for the retirement you always dreamed of. Again, that number is 863-285-3815. I want to help make sure that you have the retirement you always dreamed of by walking through our core retirement design. Again, all you have to do is give us a call, 863-285-3815, and schedule your 30-minute phone call. It's that simple, folks. Don't leave it to chance.
Whether it's a 401k or an IRA that you have for retirement, one thing is certain: you cannot treat that retirement account like an ATM. Spending down your savings too quickly and running out of money is an option that you just cannot afford. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
If you have a retirement plan and would like a second opinion, call Statler Financial Services today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
From the pitch, swung at a little too soon.
Strike three, you're out.
To the joke told at the wrong time. To barely missing your connecting flight.
This is the final boarding call for Flight 109 to Chicago.
Timing is everything. The same is true for your Social Security benefits. Take them too soon and you could leave a lot of money on the table. Take them too late and you might spend down too much of your savings. Everybody's situation can be different, but taking your Social Security benefits at the right time is important for your retirement success. Philip Statler at Statler Financial understands Social Security and can help you make decisions that are best for you and your retirement dreams. Call 863-285-3815 to start optimizing your benefits. With Social Security, timing is everything, so don't delay. Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Check him out online at statlerfinancial.com. Or as we get back into it, if you hear something you want to get some answers on, 863-285-3815 is how you can have that conversation with Philip today. That's 863-285-3815. Talking today about 401k and IRA decisions, and whether it is a 401k or an IRA that you have for retirement, one thing is certain: you cannot treat this account like a big old ATM where you just go grab cash whenever you need it. So, Philip, give me some strategies that you recommend here.
Unfortunately, Jen, I've seen people think they can do that.
Oh, boy.
And it has bitten them pretty bad when it comes tax time, right? So So one of the things that you look at is you need to have a strategy for withdrawing that money from those accounts. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Don't just start accessing money and taking it out just whenever you want to.
Willy-nilly, I think, is the...
That's right. Willy-nilly. That's the word I was looking for.
Technical term.
Right? So we want to have a distribution strategy in place. And there's several that you can use, right? So one would be take a fixed dollar amount out, whether that's every year, every month, every quarter. Mm-hmm. Typically, I know when we look at that, and that's kind of where we look at starting with is a fixed dollar amount that we adjust for inflation periodically. And that usually works the best because, and a monthly distribution, I think, works the best because people are used to getting that paycheck every month, right? It comes mm-hmm. in, their pension comes in every month, their Social Security comes in every month. Hey, here's one more distribution comes in every month to pay their bills with. So that's the fixed dollar withdrawal. You pick out what you need within reason, right? That's why you need to have the income plan to make sure that you don't take out too much at one time, because that can be devastating to your total retirement plan. So the other one that you can use is limit withdrawals to just the income that your portfolio produces, right? Okay. You're just going to take the income out. You're not going to take any principal out, which that gives you some fluctuations, right? Because your income could be down one month and up the next month, because a lot of times if you have a stock portfolio, well, everybody pays dividends at a different point in time. So one company's quarter is not another company's quarter. So that could be, it gives you an uneven stream of income there. So, but it's an option, and people do that. They'll just take the dividends off their portfolio, and that's the income they use. The other thing you have to be careful on that one, though, is that you may not take enough. If you're having to take RMDs, that may not give you enough to cover your RMD. So you have to make sure you run those calculations. Okay. Yeah. The other is you create some kind of income floor. So, you look at your accounts and decide at what point does your income kind of floor out. This is a minimum I need, and that's my income floor. And then, hey, everything else is going to get reinvested. Bucket your money. That's one of our favorites, is to kind of bucket it. And we'll create buckets, emergency bucket, income buckets, and then growth buckets, right? So we know we're going to take money out of the income bucket, and that way it's going to last for our lifetime. Another one, well, let's go back to buckets just a minute, because people, when they look at buckets, sometimes misunderstand. Mm-hmm. I think it's important that, because people aren't working anymore, they have a hard time figuring out, okay, what's my emergency money? Because, you always tell people, hey, keep 6 months of your income. Right. So if you get laid off, you got that income. Well, you're working, that's fine. But when you're not working, you're retired, well, your income is your income, right? It's your Social Security, your pension, and whatever you take out of your account. So, but I still feel like you need to have a bucket of emergency money, right? So we'll tell our clients, look, you need to have $20,000 to $50,000, depending upon your comfort level, sitting there for emergencies. Appliances go out, or you need a new roof, or something that's major. Granted, a new roof, most likely insurance is going to cover, but they may not cover it today, right? We need to get it paid for. So that's the things we look at there. Another option that a lot of folks use, especially if they have a pension and they don't need any additional money out of their retirement accounts, is they'll just take the minimum RMD, right? They want to minimize what they have to take out. They're only going to take their RMD out. They'll work on other ways to help reduce their taxable income in order to do that. The last one I want to cover, and we do this when we do our income planning specifically, is what account sequences do we use to minimize taxes? So if you have a Roth IRA, hey, we want to mix that into the blend so we're not paying tax on all the money we take out. You have a non-qualified account, we want to mix that into the blend to make sure that we reduce taxes as much as possible when we're taking money out of that income plan. So, those are kind of the areas that you need to look at, and some distribution strategies that are out there. And I'm sure that other folks have created their own type of distribution strategy out there. But I would just caution you that it needs to be something that mathematically it's going to last your lifetime. Mm-hmm. That's the number one concern I always have. And then make sure that there's some buildup in there to help cover inflation.
So as we are developing that strategy for taking money out of these accounts, how do we figure out how much income we'll need those different accounts to generate in the first place?
Well, it goes back to budgeting, which nobody likes to talk about.
No, it's the worst.
So, and that's why we developed the income plan, because that's going to help us determine where the money's going to come from. So we look at how much are we going to get from Social Security? How much are we going to get from pensions? And then what's the shortfall? Hey, look, if your budget says I need, $5,000 a month, then okay, how much is Mr. and Mrs. Social Security going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a pension that's going to help contribute that $60,000? And then ultimately you have a shortfall. What is that shortfall that I need to make up? And that's what we're going to solve for. A good rule of thumb, and I think we've talked about this in an earlier show, is that the 4% rule,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the volatility we're seeing now, you need to throw it out the window, because that's probably too much right now.
Mm-hmm.
You need to look at maybe a 2.8, 3.2% withdrawal rate. If you're having to take out more than that to meet your expenses, then there's a chance that you could run out of money before you run out of life. And we don't want that to happen to anybody. Jen, that's why we developed our core retirement design, to help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. And so part of our process is a 30-minute, no obligation, free phone call, 30 minutes of our time to ask us questions that you may have, to see where you're headed, to make sure you're on the right path, and to give you some recommendations to make sure that you are on that right path. It's that simple. All you have to do is give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement phone call. That's all you have to do. It's that simple. And we'll answer your questions and help make sure you're on the right track for retirement.
Now, Philip, as we talk about 401k and IRA decisions, some people might want to take that traditional account, that traditional IRA or 401k, which is tax deferred, and do a conversion, convert that into a Roth account, so then they can have tax-free withdrawals later. So talk a little bit about that strategy. Is this something that a lot of people do, and what do we need to know about it?
So I'm going to lay out a couple things here, Jen, because it is a topic of discussion that we have with our clients, and prospective clients that we talk to. Because one of the things that I have seen in the years that I've been doing this is that folks waste tax brackets. And I don't want to see anybody waste a tax bracket. So that's what we try to do is, hey, if you're paying zero taxes, that's a problem, especially if you're sitting on an IRA. Let's convert some of that IRA and let's use that tax bracket to maximize your retirement benefits. And so part of our strategy within our core retirement design is to figure out, does a Roth conversion make sense for you? And let's be honest, it does not make sense for everybody. A matter of fact, there's a lot of folks that if they did it, it's going to push them into a 22 or 24% tax bracket.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so you have to think twice before doing that. It doesn't always make sense, but you don't know whether or not it makes sense for you if you don't run the numbers. And so that's part of our core retirement analysis, is to analyze that for folks to make sure that it's in the right boat, that you're doing the right thing, because it does cause you to pay some taxes. It can also do some other things. It can help cause you to lose some tax deductions and tax credits. It can cause you to pay more tax on your Social Security. And the biggest thing that I've seen people get hit with that they didn't expect was they get hit with higher Medicare premiums. Wow. And the issue is it takes 2 years or so for that to catch up with you, and you forgot why you're getting hit with it now, right? Right. So, but it is still something that everyone needs to look at, and they need to run the results by their qualified tax advisor to make sure they're doing the right thing when it comes to their IRA, Jen.
So bottom line, it's important that we have an income strategy for our retirement. I think you've made that pretty clear. When is the best time to get with a trusted financial partner to make that happen and to take a look at some of the decisions we're thinking about making? Maybe we think we want to do a Roth conversion, but we need somebody to look over this and help us understand all the details that maybe we might be missing.
Well, it's kind of like it's like planning for vacation, right? The earlier you start, the better you are. And so what does that look like for folks? Look, it's never too early. Ideally, you want to start probably 5 years before you're going to retire is kind of the sweet spot, but you can start 10 years before. So if you're in your late 50s, it makes sense. If you're going to work till 65 or 67, it makes sense that in your late 50s to go ahead and start looking at putting together an initial plan to make sure you're on track for your retirement.
So how much should you save for retirement? Where do you save it? How do you make sure it will last after you leave your job for good? Philip, those are some of the questions you probably have if you're getting close to retirement.
Jen, savings is a good start to get ready for the next chapter in your life. But you need to do more than just save. You need to have that income strategy for after you stop earning that regular paycheck. When you don't have money coming in, you need to have a plan for how it goes out. If you're listening to me right now and you don't have an income strategy, folks, I invite you to give us a call. Let us help you see where you're at right now. Talk about budgets. We'll talk about, risks to your portfolio, risks that may threaten your retirement when it comes to stock market volatility, inflation that we're seeing right now. Tax increases coming down the road. These are all things that can eat into your retirement. And we can have a conversation about that in that 30-minute phone call that we'll happily provide you. Learn about different options for generating income in retirement and make sure that your standard of living in retirement stays where it is, even with the rising cost. Folks, this phone call is absolutely complimentary, no cost, no obligation. I'm giving you 30 minutes of our time just to make sure you are on the right path. If you've saved at least $150,000 for retirement, give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your no obligation core retirement phone call. It's that simple, folks. Give us a call, 863-285-3815. Don't let this chance get away, especially if you're 5 years or less away from retirement. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
This is your captain speaking. We're expecting fair skies, a smooth flight, and about a 85% chance or so of making it to our destination. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the flight.
Would you stay on that plane? Of course not. Well, do you have a retirement plan where you probably won't run out of money? You need a plan that no matter the destination will help you get to and through retirement successfully. Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services can design a plan to help you get to your destination as comfortably as possible, even if Wall Street or the economy causes some turbulence. Call Philip Statler and the Statler Financial Services team to start working on your plan. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Get a plan designed to allow you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the retirement you've worked so hard for. 863-285-3815. Firm offers insurance services, advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and he's sweating bullets right now because we're getting ready to put him to the test. Philip, we've got a round of retirement trivia, and our topic this week is a big one. It's inflation. How do you feel about that? Are we ready?
Inflation, that's because, we've not really talked about inflation, but we get inflation, right? It's high. We know when we go to the grocery store. But if you're going to go back and ask me questions like way back when.
Yeah, I am.
That's going to be tough because inflation's been all over the place.
I know. It has been all over the place. And this is what makes it fun is that I get to be in charge of the buzzer and the bell, and you are totally at my mercy. So we'll see how this goes.
Fun for you, right?
It's really fun for me.
I see where this is going.
It's really fun for me. Well, you're right. There will be some rather obscure facts and stats, but I think we'll all learn a little something here. Are you ready for your first question about inflation?
I'm ready.
You're as ready as you're ever going to be? All right.
As ready as I'm ever going to be.
We're going to go back to 1950 for our first question. Median home value in 1950, was it A, about $3,400, B, about $6,000, C, about $7,300, or D, was it $9,900, just under $10,000. Median home value in 1950. What do you think?
1950.
It's a long time ago.
We're talking about, that's over 70 years ago.
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
I wasn't alive then.
I know. I wasn't trying to say that you were. You certainly weren't buying a home back then.
So I've seen some, like my mom turned 80 this year. And so we did one of those things, where you print it out and says, here's what things were back when you were born.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe I can get kind of close, right? Because, well, that was 10 years further, like 1940 something, right? So I'm going to say that a home, the median home value was probably somewhere around $6,100.
All right.
Right?
Final answer?
I think that's my final answer. I mean, if it was a car, I think a car would have probably been less than $3,400. But
for sure.
But a house, I'm thinking probably somewhere $6,100.
$6,100. All right. Yeah. That final answer, you are close. $7,300 was the right answer on that one. But you were pretty close. Think about that though for just a second. Back in the 50s, $7,000 could get you a whole house. Like you can barely get a living room.
You can't get a car now.
You can't get a living room furniture set for under that in some cases.
Some bicycles cost you more than that.
Holy moly! Median home value jumped up to $79,000 by 1990, and then by 2020 it was over $300,000, $330,000. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Wow. Yeah.
That's pretty wild. All right. I'm going to have to put in some caveats in this next one because obviously inflation has really picked up the pace. But traditionally, Philip, healthcare costs tend to increase at a slightly faster pace than traditional inflation. And so I'm going to ask you about that. And it's a little wonky right now because we had some really different inflation numbers have been coming in. But typically, the American Medical Association says healthcare costs increase by about blank % per year. And you think about typical inflation is quite a bit lower than what it is right now. It's usually quite a bit lower. So healthcare costs typically would be about 4.5% a year, about 5% per year, or about 6% per year. I'm just going to give you three. I'm not going to get too crazy with this.
Oh, that's nice. Nice of you.
Yeah. 4.5%, 5%, or 6% per year. What do you think?
So let's face it. Up until 2021, right? Our normal inflation number was way less than 3%.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, way. I mean, you have to go back to 2011 to get 3% inflation.
Yeah.
So based on that, and I know if we were talking about college education, college has been going up by about 8% a year, but way more than even medical has. So I'm going to say that the medical has probably gone up about 4.5% per year because that's going to be another, I mean, on average, our inflation has been 2%. So that's another 2.5% on top of that. And I think that sounds about right.
So 4.5% is your final answer? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You got it.
Man, you made me sweat
made
a
you
little
wait.
bit more there.
I know. I thought that'd be fun. Well, if you're going to get it right, I have to at least be a little bit mean and make you wait. Okay, here's another one, again, at an average rate of inflation. So think back to when things were normal before we started seeing crazy high inflation. So at the average rate of inflation around 3%, Philip, how often do prices double? Is it A, every 10 years, B, every 20 years, or C, every 30 years? I'll just give you three choices.
I'm going to say, because if it's 10% a year, that's about 7 years. I'm going to say 20 years.
Every 20 years? Final answer?
Yeah, that's my
Got it. Yeah, that's typically what we would see. But then when we have times of higher inflation, of course, it's a little bit different. But that's something that we have to factor in for retirement, right? If your retirement lasts 20 years and you think about what you've budgeted for now, we cannot afford to not think about that in the future.
You're right. Especially, I mean, if you think about it, if you retire, there's a good chance that you're going to live at least 20 years in retirement, if not 30 years in retirement. So you got to think through that inflationary numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just something that we don't want to lose sight of. Philip, before we wrap things up, let's do a bonus question. You want to do one more inflation trivia question?
Sure. I mean, am I going to win a prize if I get this right?
You might get the bell again, or you might get the buzzer. I don't know. That's the best I can do. After adjusting for inflation, what is the highest grossing movie of all time? Is it A, The Wizard of Oz, B, Titanic, C, Gone with the Wind, or D, Jaws? Highest grossing movie of all time after you adjust for inflation.
See, I think I know this one because I think I've heard it somewhere before.
Okay.
Maybe not in financial terms, but I know it's probably one of the highest, most popular anyway. And that's going to be Gone with the Wind.
Final answer?
That's my final answer. I'm pretty confident.
You did it! After adjusted for inflation, now these are 2017 numbers, so a little bit older of numbers. Highest grossing movies of all time are Gone with the Wind, then Star Wars. I'm thinking by now Star Wars may have surpassed it, though. I'm not sure. Then The Sound of Music, then E.T., and then The Ten Commandments are the highest grossing movies of all time.
Right.
Yeah. How about that? So a little bit of fun facts here for you. You've had some fun talking about inflation today. And it's a big topic, Philip, because Market Watch says nobody suffers more from high inflation than retirees. I mean, it's fun to go through all the trivia and stuff, but back in the 70s, the last time we saw some really serious high inflation in the 70s and 80s, it was retirees living on a fixed income who were hit the hardest. Every year, retirees got poorer, and now inflation is the highest we've seen in 40 years. It just keeps going up.
You're absolutely right, Jen, and that's the truth, right? Inflation never sleeps. It never stops. It just keeps on trucking. And now we've seen some of the highest inflation numbers that we've seen in, it seems like, forever, right? And so it just doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. And so how do you maintain your current standard of living? In retirement, you're on an income. And that income purchasing power will get less and less as inflation gets higher and higher. We need to have a plan in place to make sure that you are making the right choices when it comes to compensating for inflation. So how do you figure out how much you'll need in retirement? How are you going to uncover what those risks are that could just chop away at your retirement income? And then how can you make sure that you're going to generate the best options and most possible income you can in retirement? Is having a written retirement income plan. If you don't have one, and you're getting close to retirement. What's close? 5 years, maybe even 10 if you're a real planner, right? Or if you've already retired. Listen, folks, I want to give you 30 minutes of our time to talk to us on the phone, figure out where you are, where you need to be, what you can do to put yourself in the best possible situation heading into retirement. That's why I've taken so much time to develop our core retirement design to help people design the retirement they always dreamed of. Give me 30 minutes of your time. Give us a call at 863-285-3815, and let's see if we can put you on the right track to have the retirement you always dreamed of. Again, that's 863-285-3815. Isn't it worth 30 minutes of your time to have the retirement you always dreamed of? One more time, give us a call at 863-285-3815.
You've been listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining us today. Be sure to tune in again next time for more insights from Philip, and we'll talk to you then.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.
This radio show is a paid placement.